Every human life is moved by something unseen, a quiet pulse beneath every thought, every choice, every heartbeat. Is the pull of desire. From the moment we first reach out as infants to the last breath we take, desire shapes the architecture of our existence. It whispers, want, seek, move, become. But what exactly is this force that drives us toward one thing and away from another? Is it merely biological chemistry, or is it the echo of something deeper, a longing that defines what it means to be conscious? At its root, desire begins in the body. A signal of need arises, hunger, thirst, warmth, touch. Deep within the brain, the limbic system stirs. Dopamine trickles through neural pathways. Reward circuits light up like small constellations. The body says, "This feels good, do it again." And from that simple loop of stimulus and reward emerges the vast empire of human wanting. But soon, desire outgrows its biological boundaries. It becomes psychological, no longer about survival, but identity, pleasure, and meaning. We begin to desire not just food, but recognition, not just shelter, but admiration, not just warmth, but belonging. Each fulfilled desire teaches the mind a pattern. Every small success, every compliment, etches a memory of pleasure deep into the nervous system. And the mind, being clever, begins to chase that feeling, not the object itself. You may think you desire a certain person, a position, a lifestyle, but underneath is the emotional surge you truly seek, the sweet release of finally having. That release never lasts. Soon, a subtle emptiness appears, and the cycle begins again. Modern psychology often describes this loop as the hedonic treadmill. We achieve what we once longed for, but the mind swiftly adjusts its expectations. Happiness fades to baseline, the chase resumes. Desire promises satisfaction, but it secretly feeds on its own renewal. If it were truly satisfied, it would cease to exist, and so it ensures it never fully ends. This is not failure, it is function. Desire keeps the organism moving, and movement to the brain means life. It's somewhere inside. Awareness begins to ask, am I moving towards something real, or merely circling the same flame? Emotional desires, love, approval, power, control, are subtler and more deceptive than physical cravings. They grow from the same soil, but entwine themselves with who we believe we are. A child ignored learns to desire attention. A mind once shamed learns to crave validation. A heart once powerless learns to seek control. These desires are not wrong. They are protective adaptations. But when left unseen, they evolve into invisible cages. We begin to measure our worth by how well others mirror our needs. We confuse being desired with being safe, being admired with being whole. Pause for a moment and ask yourself, what is the most persistent desire in your life right now? Is it truly yours? Or has it been inherited from expectation, fear, or comparison? When did it first appear? And what emotion hides beneath it? Loneliness, pride, insecurity, hope? Notice how simply observing desire changes its intensity. Awareness cools the flame without extinguishing it. Over time, desires merge into the story of me. We say, I want, I need, I must. The wanting becomes the self. Neuroscience shows that self-referential thought activates the brain's default mode network, the same circuit linked with daydreaming, planning, and rumination. It loops constantly, replaying personal narratives, forecasting imagined futures of fulfillment or loss. To the brain, identity is continuity of desire. Who you think you are is largely shaped by what you think you want. But what happens when wanting stops? Even for a moment? When silence slips through the cracks of craving? Does the self dissolve? Or does it finally come alive? Many people say they wish to be free of desire. Yet when stillness arrives, they feel restless, even frightened. The mind mistakes calm for emptiness, emptiness for meaninglessness. So it creates new cravings for enlightenment, productivity, or self-improvement. Anything to keep movement alive. The truth is, stillness exposes what desire hides. The unease of simply being. We chase because we fear to meet ourselves. In therapy, we see what happens when desire is denied. Suppressed, longing doesn't vanish. It compresses into shadow, surfacing as irritation, envy, or sudden rage. To control desire is not to kill it, but to see it without merging with it, to recognize its voice without obeying its command. Control born of repression leads to fragmentation. Control born of awareness leads to integration. Dopamine motivates pursuit. Serotonin stabilizes satisfaction. When a system falls out of balance, through stress, social comparison, or chronic overstimulation, desire becomes addiction, a loop without pause or fulfillment. Neuroscientists call this prediction error. The brain keeps expecting a bigger reward than it receives. Each time, disappointment fuels another attempt. The secret irony: the more we chase pleasure, the less capable we become of feeling it. True control over desire doesn't come from suppression or indulgence, but from transformation, a subtle shift from wanting to witnessing. When awareness watches desire without resistance, its heat turns into light. The energy of craving becomes the energy of clarity. You begin to see the pattern, not as a personal flaw, but as an ancient rhythm of life. Desire moves through you, but you're not its prisoner. You're the space it passes through. Sit quietly with this idea. If desire vanished completely, who would you be? Would meaning fade, or would peace begin? Can there be creativity, love, or growth without wanting? Or does life itself require this endless reaching? There's no quick answer, but noticing the question is the first crack in the wall of automatic wanting. When we look deeply at desire, not to satisfy it, not to escape it, but simply to see it, something remarkable happens. The energy that once burned outward begins to turn inward. You start to notice that behind every craving, there's a subtle vibration, an unfinished thought, a quiet emotional hunger. The mind, left unobserved, treats every sensation of incompleteness as a problem to solve. But when awareness enters, it learns that incompleteness is not always an error. It is often the way consciousness experiences itself growing. Each desire, no matter how small or selfish, carries the seed of transformation within it. It shows us where our attention still seeks wholeness. Biologically, the amygdala, hypothalamus, and ventral tegmental area work together in an elegant but dangerous loop. When a desire is born, whether it's for connection, achievement, or escape, these structures release neurochemical signals that tell the brain something important is missing. Go get it. The prefrontal cortex, the rational, planning part of you, tries to make sense of this message. It builds stories, reasons, goals. But deep down, the emotional impulse remains simple. I want to feel complete again. Psychology calls this the cycle of affective imbalance. The tendency to chase positive emotion and run from negative emotion without ever realizing they are two faces of the same movement. Before we go deeper, pause. Think of a time when you intensely desired something. A person, a success, a recognition. What did that desire feel like in your body? Where did it live? In your chest, in your throat, in your stomach? Now recall the moment after you achieved it. How long did the satisfaction last before your mind created a new goal? Can you sense how the craving wasn't just for the object, but for the feeling of wholeness itself? That feeling is the mirage, and realizing it brings you closer to the truth behind desire. Most people try to control desire through willpower or avoidance. We say, I must not want this. But thought-suppressing thought is like wind trying to silence fire. It only makes it spread. Control that arises from fear strengthens the craving it opposes. But control born of awareness works differently. When you see desire fully, its origins, its sensations, its stories, it begins to lose its hypnotic power. You start to understand that the urge itself is innocent. It is only when we merge our identity with the urge that suffering begins. I feel desire is peaceful. I am desire becomes pain. In modern life, We often substitute one desire for another, thinking we've evolved. We trade indulgence for ambition, materialism for spirituality, obsession for productivity. But the mechanism remains the same. We still chase emotional completion outside the moment. This is what psychologists refer to as displacement of craving, the mind's subtle ability to disguise wanting as virtue. It's why someone can meditate for years, yet still crave enlightenment like a possession. The mind's cleverness ensures that even the pursuit of peace can become another form of addiction. Observation is not suppression. It is participation without identification. When you observe desire with gentle curiosity, you begin to sense its rhythm. It rises, peaks, fades. Every craving, no matter how intense, obeys the law of impermanence. If you can stay with it, feel it without feeding it, it begins to dissolve naturally, leaving behind a quiet clarity that feels like light after rain. Neuroscience shows that mindful observation changes how the prefrontal cortex and limbic system communicate. Over time, you gain emotional flexibility, the ability to experience desire without being ruled by it. This is not suppression. This is freedom through understanding. Ask yourself gently, when I experience desire, do I move toward awareness or away from it? Do I feed it, fight it, or feel it? Can I allow a moment of craving to exist without rushing to act? Notice what happens when you stop naming the desire as good or bad, right or wrong. It simply becomes energy, moving, shifting, seeking expression. The same energy that fuels attachment can fuel creativity, compassion, or growth. It is not the fire itself that harms us. It is our blindness to its nature. Desire, from a neurochemical view, is an elegant loop between dopamine and opioid systems. Dopamine drives anticipation, the chase. The opioid system rewards completion, the relief. But the relief never fully matches the anticipation, and so the cycle restarts. Meditation and reflective awareness introduce a third state, neutral observation. In this state, dopamine responses stabilize, and the brain begins to associate peace, not pursuit, with reward. This is not mystical, it's rewiring. By repeatedly observing without acting, you train your brain that stillness is safe. And safety, to the mind, is the true foundation of peace. Many psychological studies point toward a deeper truth. Beneath all desires lies the same impulse, to feel connected, to belong, to be seen. Even aggression, greed, or obsession are distorted reflections of that single longing, to return to a sense of unity. Desire becomes destructive when the ego hijacks this longing, when connection turns into control, and love turns into possession. The tragedy of human desire is that it seeks outwardly for what can only be found inwardly. Let's turn this into an internal practice. Pause. The next time you notice a desire, don't name it. Don't even call it desire. Simply recognize the sensation. Locate. Where in your body do you feel it? The chest? The hands? The stomach? Breathe. Instead of resisting, breathe into that space. Let the energy expand slightly. Observe. Watch how the sensation rises, sustains, and falls. Notice the story your mind tells alongside it. Reflect. Ask, what emotion is this desire protecting? Is it loneliness, fear, hope, or something tender underneath? Over time, this practice rewires the relationship between awareness and craving. You start to experience desire as weather, passing through the sky of consciousness, never defining it. Desire loses power and presence when your attention fully rests in the moment. The mind no longer projects missing pieces into the future. There is nothing to complete, nowhere to go. It is in that stillness that the deepest paradox appears. When you no longer chase fulfillment, everything begins to feel full. Desire was never the enemy. It was a guide, a messenger showing you where your awareness has not yet reached. And yet, even in deep understanding, desire never disappears completely. A quiet spark remains, the pulse that drives creativity, love, discovery. The goal was never to extinguish it, but to see it clearly, to walk beside it without being consumed. The sages say enlightenment is not the death of desire, but its transformation into curiosity, a movement without grasping, a fire that illuminates instead of burns. Pause for one last moment. Close your eyes. Listen inwardly. Can you feel the pulse of wanting, subtle, alive? Can you also feel the vast stillness beneath it? These two forces coexist, the moving and the unmoving, the seeker and the silence. Perhaps they're not enemies, but partners, a cosmic dance that keeps consciousness awake. Maybe desire is not what traps us, but what calls us to remember who is truly watching it. And so, the question remains, if desire were to fall completely silent, would life lose its color, or would it reveal its true form? No one can answer for you. It can only be felt in the quiet space between one longing and the next, where the mind stops reaching, and something vast begins to breathe. The fire within doesn't always seek to consume. Sometimes, it only wishes to be seen.